It's been almost a year since we've had this beach house in Florida that we operate as an Airbnb, and we run everything remotely. Originally, this video was going to be listing optimization and design updates, but as you probably guessed from the title, that's not what happened. I still think it's important to share our struggles when things don't go as planned, how we work through them, and learning from the mistakes, not just the wins. And if this video helps at least just one person avoid the same mistakes that I made, it would have been worth making. What I wanted to do was to, one, make some incremental changes to our house on things that only actual guests can notice, like a creaky door or the shower isn't getting warm as fast as we would like. Stuff like that. And then two was to get better images for the listing. I think our initial thumbnail picture could be more exciting, and I had in mind this picture that would be taken at sunset with twinkly lights, the fire pit going, and showcasing both the backyard and also the coziness of the house. I also wanted to get some Instagram style content, something more fun and experiential, stuff like having a leisurely wine outside with the fire pit on, or grinding beans to make French press coffee in the morning, or even just the process of like loading your beach umbrella, beach chairs, and your kids into the beach wagon and that short stroll to get to the beach. The purpose of that would be just to reach a wider audience through Instagram and not completely rely on Airbnb's algorithm. And then lastly, number 3 was to just have fun, enjoy the beach house, and go on vacation with our family. You know, like a little bit of business, a little bit of fun. What a great plan, right? Turns out, when we arrived, the fence in the backyard was just kind of grimy from all the moisture from the sea. The exterior of the house was also looking really dirty. I think some of it is to be expected with just being close to the ocean, but I think it got worse a lot faster than I had thought it would. We had to hire a house washing company to get all of the exterior cleaned and all the patio furniture shampooed. On the landscaping front, a good chunk of the grass in the back was just dead. A few months back, we found out about a sprinkler failure, and we thought we fixed it, but since then there's still been issues with water pressure, and then winter hit. It was just one thing on top of another, and the end result was some sad brown grass. The trees also needed some trimming, and a lot of the shrubs looked kind of wilty, and we weren't quite sure which ones were going to come back after the winter. Basically, all the photos that I had in mind involved the outdoor space, and all of that unfortunately had to be cancelled, which was really disappointing. For the stuff inside the house, there were also more repairs than I thought. The fridge filter needed to be replaced, the coffee grinder was broken, and then the fan remotes were missing. Even smaller things like the pool cues, they were missing the tips, and the foosball table wasn't level, so like the ball would just roll to one side and inherently like rig the game. And then the kids' radio flyer wagon is supposed to have this top canopy for shade, and that shade was missing. A couple lights were out. There were just a lot of these little things, and I'm surprised no guest even said anything. The plumber also came for an inspection and was telling us that we had extremely hard water and that we needed a new water softener, even though this house wasn't very old. And so we spent way too much time figuring out whether this was legit or whether this person was just trying to sell us something. It ended up being the latter, which I guess is good for us, but that still took a lot of time. And then lastly, there's still the usual maintenance type stuff, like changing out alarm batteries, swapping HVAC filters, and making sure nothing important's in the mail. Overall, I think there was just a lot more work than I had hoped for on this trip that I had hoped would also be fun. And the type of work also leaned more towards repairs in the sense of like correcting something that is already broken versus adding fun, nice touches or adding like something for marketing purposes, which was what I had in mind. So I guess before anyone tells you Airbnb is passive income, it may be in like year 4 and 5, but in the first year, it definitely takes a lot of effort. So what did I learn from this experience? The main operational thing is how do I get someone to notice that these things were going wrong and tend to these semi-broken items as they come up so that they just don't accumulate like this. Our cleaners are really the eyes to the place, the boots on the ground, if you will, and they do tell us a lot, like when the bedding is stained and we need to buy new ones, or if we're running out of toilet paper. They're really good at all of those things, but they wouldn't be able to tell us if the coffee grinder works or if the wagon has a wonky wheel, which it did this time, because they wouldn't be testing these things. Our guests, I suppose, would test these things as they use them, and probably some of them do notice. I always message the guests the morning after they check in to make sure everyone is settled in and offer to take any questions if there is any opportunity to make their stay better. I mentioned this again before checking out, like, hey, this is the checkout process for tomorrow, and by the way, if there is anything at all all that we can help with to improve your stay here, please let us know. And so far, we've maybe received like a handful of small requests like, hey, the darts are missing, or the tray to the kid high seat is missing, which is really helpful. I appreciate that, but it is neither comprehensive nor consistent. I think one idea is to have our assistant or handy person walk through either monthly or quarterly and just test through everything in the house. I'm a little skeptical of how effective this is because unless they like open up the beach tent, they may not notice that it's missing one of the 4 anchors. I suppose, yes, you can build a checklist, but how long is this list going to be? Another idea, and maybe that's not either or, maybe it's both, is to see if we can like work out a deal with a friend, maybe ideally in off season, and offer them the place to stay and have them give us really good, honest feedback. We need to find a friend who is picky enough and who would be interested in doing something like this. But if we can find a win-win scenario, this might not be a bad idea. As for the landscaping, I think I need to reset expectations with our lawn person, because if he's there every week and the grass is like dead, there's nothing to mow, and I was assuming that he would just tell us, but you really can't assume anything, and in the end it is my job to set clear expectations. Anyway, if you have other ideas, feel free to comment below to let me know and let other people know. The second big thing that I learned is more introspective, and it has to do with my own expectations. I think it's good to want a perfect experience for a guest, and I don't want to lose that. I think it's a good thing to have. But I also think the perfect experience isn't necessarily the same as the perfect house. Like whether one light bulb goes out when someone is staying, or if the Jenga box is missing a few pieces. Some of it probably isn't that big of a deal. And a guest's experience also includes so many different things beyond just how good the house is. Their interaction with the host, what they're going through at that moment, the weather, all sorts of stuff. So while I continue to try to improve the operational aspect, I want to remind myself and you, if you also feel the same way, that the operational piece is really just one part of the bigger puzzle. And so yeah, use this as a motivation to get better at hosting, but don't let this drive you down this crazy rabbit hole, chasing some unrealistic, perfectionistic goal and forgetting the many other ways I can improve for someone's experience at my property. The last thing I learned was how hyper-focusing on improvement competed with my family time and my enjoyment. Because I was constantly viewing the space from a critical lens, and there is no ceiling to improvement, as you know, I felt like I was just constantly brainstorming all the fixes I want to make and analyzing the ROI on which fix and thinking of who to call if I want to do it. My mind wandering all over this stuff instead of just relaxing and being with my family, which seriously, isn't that the main purpose of getting an Airbnb house in the first place? This might sound super cliche, but when I'm an elderly woman, am I going to regret not using magic eraser on some spot on the wall? Or am I going to regret not spending more time on vacation with my kids? So for the future, I think I will try the couple operational tweaks to stay on top of repairs. I will reset expectations with people that I'm working with, but also with myself. If I'm coming here with my family, then it should be primarily for that and work being secondary. And if I think there's more work than that can accommodate, then I need to think about whether I should take a solo trip just to get it all done, or can I delegate somehow without physically being there. If you got any value out of this story, huge favor to please give this a thumbs up and subscribe. It truly is one of the best ways to support the channel, so thank you. I hope everything is going well with you and your hosting journey, and I will talk to you again next week. Bye!